my main theme, because I want to show how important these things are by a very simple and personal illustration. If the United States in the 1890s had had the laws that we now have, the laws supposedly to protect the worker, supposedly to protect the poor, if I existed at all today, I would be a citizen of the Soviet Union. That's not a prospect I would have relished. But my parents emigrated here in the 1890s. They were in their teens. My mother was 14 and my father was 16 or 17. They were able to emigrate here. Why? Not merely because we had free immigration, but also, for example, because we had no minimum wage laws. Had there been minimum wage laws, there would have been no jobs for them to take. Minimum wage laws, like so many of these other interferences, though enacted in the name of helping the poor, in fact deny the very poorest opportunity. And you can go down the line. There would have been no entrepreneurs willing to provide employment under the only kinds of conditions and with the only kind of jobs that they were qualified for. Now, of course, it's a very hypothetical thing, because if they couldn't have emigrated to the U.S., they might not have met over in Carpatho-Ruthenia, where they came from. And if they had met in Carpatho-Ruthenia, they might not have gotten married. And if they had gotten married, they might not have conceived me. And I had been conceived, and you can go on with all the rest of the ifs. But had I survived, that particular area, which was at that time part of Austro-Hungary, later of Czechoslovakia, is now part of the Soviet Union. Can we get back on what I regard as the right track? Or have we been through a golden age? You know, I've always been fascinated by the story of golden ages in history. The fascinating thing about them is how brief they are. If you go back to the golden age of the 5th century BC in Greece, or you go back to the golden age in Rome, or go back to the several Elizabethan golden ages, or to the Renaissance, in each case, you have the same kind of phenomenon, a tremendous efflorescence, a flowering of culture, of art, of industry, of architecture, of whatnot, for about 75, 100, 125, 150 years, and then somehow or other it all disappears. It's the same people, same Peloponnesian Peninsula, same land that was there before the Golden Age came, and that is there after the Golden Age disappears. Have we been going through such a process? Was the 19th and first half of the 20th century our Golden Age? Are we on the way down? Or is there still a possibility of our being able to resume and have a renewed, a repeated Golden Age? We have many great assets. We have the asset of great wealth accumulated as a result of 200 years of a large degree of freedom. We have enormous diversity in our population. We have great springs of initiative. And we have another feature that I can best bring out by referring to a crack that our chairman, George Stigler, made some 30 years ago. Shortly after the war, he and I, and as it happens, the third person in this auditorium, traveled together to Europe to attend a meeting in Switzerland. It was our first time in Europe, or his and mine. And we spent 2 or 3 days in England and London, and 2 or 3 days in Paris. And then, you know, George is quick in learning. And as we left Paris, George remarked, he said, you know, he said, I've discovered the fundamental difference between the English, the French, and the Americans. I should say we have been very much impressed in Britain by the extent to which England was being strangled by the law obedience of its people, and the queues were everywhere and so on, and we were impressed in France by how rampant the black market was. And so George's conclusion was, he said, you know, the fundamental difference is this. The English obey all laws, good, bad, or indifferent. The French obey no laws, good, bad, or indifferent. The Americans obey the good laws. Well, there's a very important element of truth in that, because there probably is no more fundamental defense against tyranny than the ingenuity of the people in finding ways around laws that they don't agree with.